everyone, my name is Rick Passek, the FlyFish Fanatic, and welcome to my tying bench. Today we're going to be doing a fly that is ignored way too much, and that's the snail. I don't know how many times I've done a throat sample of a fish, or what if I've kept any, opened up the stomach, and they're just loaded with snails. Snails are kind of hard to imitate, but I've been taught by several of the old timers out there that you definitely don't want to ignore the snail. And this is an old pattern, simple pattern, but an old pattern, and we'll get her going from there. Let's switch you over. So in the vise today, I have a Hook-Hend BL254N in a size 10. I'll be using some Semperfli Nano Silk. I actually love using Nano Silk for 90% of my flies. This one, I got to be really careful with the Nano Silk because we're going to be doing a foam underbody, and it can have a tendency of ripping it. So if it does, I'll have to start again. For the underbody, I'll be using some close cell foam. It's basically just a booby eye that I've cut in half, and then I'll be using some Peacock for the body, Peacock Herl, and some dyed green Grizzly for the Hackle at the front. Again, super simple fly, old school, but snails, like I said, it's one of those flies that people ignore, and I did for many years. I just started seriously fishing snails probably the last 4 or 5 years, and especially the last 2, and it's crazy how good snails can be at the right time of year. So I'm going to take 4 strands of my Peacock Herl, put them all together. Just going to cut off my butts, get them evened up. Just going to lay them down right there. Open wraps, just going to tie this down back to my tie-in point, leave it right there. I'm going to tie in the tip of my foam. It's already, you see what I mean by it wants to have the tendency of cutting it because this stuff it's so strong and so sharp, right? But this is when it can be a bit of a disadvantage having a Nano Silk, a GSP, anything like that. I just like giving it a couple whip finishes right there just to hold it in place. So now, let's see which way I can go. Just going to take this and I'm going to slowly just wrap this. I want to have a bit of a taper, so I want it fatter in the front. I'm just going to wrap this around. I want that to go a little looser, so I get that nice fatting taper, like that thickening taper going forward. Now, sometimes here it's easier to just grab this sucker with a pair of Hackle pliers. Oops. And get that sucker switched over and tied in. And then I like folding this all back. And I'll actually wrap right back over top of that because I got to make a little bit of room for a hackle up here, right? So then I'll cut that piece of foam off. I'm actually going to turn down this light. I think it's glaring on us. All right, that's better. That white foam wants to glare off of it, so you see it's created a bit of that tapered body, right? So now I'm going to take my pheasant, I'm going to give it one wrap right at the back end, and then I will move this stuff forward all the way to the front, covering my foam up. Again, trying to leave a bit of room for a hackle at the front. We only need like 2 wraps of the hackle, so you don't need a ton of room. Tie that off. Then I will get a piece of Grizzly Hackle. I'm going to try to find a nice small one here. Don't have a lot of small ones left on any of my capes, but just want to have just a thin little, I just don't want a very long hackle. So I may have to go with one of these longer, thin guys and just use the tip. Yeah, that's probably what I will have. Oh, right there. Right there, that guy will do. The very tip of this one will do. So, just going to grab my hackle plier and just grab the tip, and then I can stroke back the fibers and find my tie-in point. Just going to lay that on my side, catch it in. Let's see. Yeah, nope, it fell off. Try that again. I want to make sure that I keep this side up as well, because I want the shiny side out. There's always a shiny side to the hackle, right? For those that are new and don't know that, there's always a shiny side and a dull side. So, just going to give that just a whip finish so it doesn't fall off on me here. Well, that's nice. I was going to just cut that little piece of straggle off, but it got sucked in with the whip finish. So, now I'm going to just make sure I try to keep this stuff right up against the where I stopped. And I want to stroke it back as well. May have crowded myself just a tiny bit, but yeah, just a tiny bit. I crowded myself there, but should be okay. Stroke back everything. Gotta shorten my thread because I got my little ring light here too close. So tie that off. Let's see if that's, yeah, just focus that a little bit for you guys. Nip that off. Again, make sure this is all stroked back. I don't want it, if possible, don't want it laying back, but I just want it out of the, obviously out of the eye of the hook. Return whip finish. Cut that off. Man, it still seems like it's out of focus, but it just could be the lighting. That's it. That is the fly. It's a fairly simple fly, like I said, to tie, but that foam will help that thing float and sit up on top. Yeah, I did crowd that head just a tiny bit. It'll help. It'll make it float on top, and that's what a lot of times you'll see. Snails just floating on top, and they take the wind and they just allow the wind to drift them to where they need to get to, right? So, yeah, don't shy away from snails, guys. Snails are a very important food source for trout. So, yeah, make sure you got some of these, and there's a few other styles you can do. There's the one where you can put the hackle in the front and on the back. There's this one. There's many different snail patterns. Some work better than others, depending. I found this one works really, really well. Yeah, and I just put this on a floating line or a type 1 sink tip, like a slow sink tip, and just do a nice slow retrieve or wind drift with it, and that's it. And yeah, and a lot of times you just got to hang on, because fish will smack it. So, alrighty. Well, tight lines, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you did, give her a thumbs up. If you didn't, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. If you have, thank you very much. When I hit 1,000 subscribers, I will be giving away a copy of both of my books, as well as a assortment of flies that I've tied on this channel. Tie lines,